Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, on the Zoom with us today. Tony, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Seth?
I'm good. Are you one of those Bears fans that's just on the bandwagon and this preseason is the best and it's just good things from here? How you feeling right now?
Oh, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid by the quart right now, so I'm good. This is our year. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Hey, it's fun to be optimistic for once, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Competency with the Bears. That's what we love. Hey, Tony, I'll tell you what. Let's dive into. I want to follow up on a conversation I had with our school resource officer last week, actually. In fact, and one thing that he told me that just jarred me to my core was he told me that he is dealing with so much anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation in the kids he is encountering these days. That is just hard to hear. You're on the front lines. You've got kids in the school systems, not Clinton school systems, but you've got kids in the school systems in Central Illinois. What is your experience?
Yeah, I would say professionally, the SRO is right on target, sadly, is that we look at the data over the last 10 to 12 years, and we do see a consistent trend in the wrong direction of our youth self-reporting suicidal ideations, having difficulty with depression and anxiety to the degree that it is affecting their socialization and their education. One of the bigger concerns was what were the effects of the pandemic. And sadly, during the pandemic, we saw a 30% increase in both the suicide and the depression self-reports. So we have seen that slowly go down a little bit, but they are still at levels that are extremely concerning. And I don't want to be kind of the negative Nancy here, but there is direct correlation of anxiety and depression levels as it relates to screen time, to social media. Social media is a tool. And as much as it can be used for progress, it can also be used for pain. And I'm concerned with, we have laws and rules in place when we have tools that are helpful but can be harmful. So you can't drive a vehicle until you are a certain age. You can't fire a firearm until you're a certain age. And I think social media should be looked at in the same way, as it is a tool that has very dangerous capabilities if not managed correctly. And that's what we're seeing with our youth.
Yeah. And as we get back to school, Tony, one thing that I hear so often, not just from school resource officers that I know, it's administration, it's teachers, it's that the issues that are happening on social media are spilling into the school day, and it's funny because I've talked to, several administrators the last few weeks about this, and it's so funny. They always kind of put the caveat in there. Like, I know this makes me sound old. When I was a kid, we could go home and get away from it. Well, it's not that you sound old. It's that that was the reality. The reality these kids are living in now is completely different than what we lived through, even you and I back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you and I had beef back in the past. We would meet out at the fence after school, and we would handle our business, and that would be the end of it. Or we would have to endure hazing or bullying or whatever. But at 3:05, we could go home to our sanctuary. That was our place of refuge. sadly, the abuser can walk right into your living room now because you allow him or her to through social media. I'm seeing a lot of schools, and I'm probably going to lose a lot of respect with this statement, but I've seen a lot of schools now in even central Illinois banning cell phone usage during the school year. And I am a proponent of that. I think it interferes with the educational development of a young person. It deprives them of their ability to learn. It deprives them of their natural ability to learn how to socialize in conversation. It deprives them of their ability just to be imaginative and playful. And so I would be, and I know my teenage boys would hate to hear this, I would be a huge advocate if our district decided to put a ban in place during the instructional periods of education.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I have heard, the returns on those policies are very strong. The attention in class is much better. The issues, I don't know if it's a direct correlation, but what has been noticed is the issues that we see on social media that spill over into the school day. Maybe they start the night before, maybe they start that morning before the kid gets to school. The things that went on social media tend to dissipate. And I think one of the people I talked to said they said to me, you separate yourself from the phone, from the social media, from the conversation. You go about your normal day, and by the end of the day, it's just that rage or whatever it was that consumed you has just kind of worn itself off. And I want to ask you this, Tony, because you talked about the things where we put limits on people, because of the things that can happen, the vehicle, the firearms, all those things. How about because this is not a regulated thing, but we know the consequences of early access and constant access to social media. Speak to parents, if you will. Shoot, speak to me. I'm a parent. I don't let my kids on social media, but speak to me. Why should I be considering monitoring this when they get that access? Why should I be, what should I be doing? Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, again, social media is a great tool if utilized appropriately. But what I would simply say to parents is this: the data is not in your favor. And I have a good friend of mine that says numbers don't have feelings, they just are. The numbers are not in favor of social media at a young age. We know that the prefrontal cortex of a person's brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. And so, quite frankly, you don't, as a youth, with all due respect to our amazing youth, you do not have full access to all of the components of your brain to make a fully informed decision. You are impulsive. You do not understand risk and consequence to the full ability as a fully developed brain. And so at that point, you have to trust people that love you to love you. And that requires us. I'm not going to let you put your hand in fire because I know it will burn you, even if you don't know that. And then, I'll just throw a few hot takes out here real quick.
Sure.
Your kids will not tell you the full truth about what's going on. My kids will not tell me everything that happens for a few reasons. One, they don't want to hear a lecture. Two, they don't want to hear an old person talk about what it used to be. Three, I don't, quote, understand. Four, it's their personal business and they don't think I have a right to it, right or wrong. But I am tired of hearing from parents saying, I wish I knew that this was happening. If they would have just told me. And sometimes they're just not. So why even leave that temptation there? Why would you leave the back door open for somebody to come in and assault your kid in your own house?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You are leaving a door open for potential risks to your children's mental wellness. Because they can't defend themselves because they don't have all of the tools that the prefrontal cortex would give them.
You know, what's going on out there, Tony? You know, speak to specifics. You know, what apps are kids drawn to where these things are, whether it's bullying, whether it's, you know, we talk so much, and even adults, you know, we see the best of people's lives. And so, you know, there's that, oh, I don't have that. I'm not that pretty. You know, I you know, can't make myself look that way. I don't have this physical feature that this person has. Where are kids at, and what are they dealing with when it comes to the causes of what is, you know, this anxiety, this depression, even suicidal ideation? What's going on their level at that point?
Well, I mean, we all have, so taking us back to Psychology 101. So if we look at Erik Erikson, who was one of the founders of psychoanalysis, he came up with these stages of development. And one of them was, I believe, intimacy versus industry. And it's basically trying to figure out who I am, you know? And so I'm in my 40s and I'm still figuring out who I am. Whenever I was in my teens and my 20s, I relied upon my friends to tell me who I was. Yeah. And I was insecure, just like every other youth person. So the sad part is that I didn't look into a mirror to see who I was. I looked to my peers. And so what these youth are looking at now, they're looking at Photoshopped pictures and trying to compare themselves to something that's not even real. You know, young men might be looking at the apex of school performance of athletics and saying, I'll never be as good as the Division II athlete, Division I athlete that just lives the next town over. Young ladies are given a distorted image of what beauty is and what they have to compare it. The other one that I guess it's interesting to me is going online and seeing everybody at a party you weren't invited to. You would have never known that back in social media or pre-social media. You would so not to sound too boomerish, but you know, that FOMO is real, that fear of missing out. You know, I'm so old that, you know, I look at some of the social media stuff and, you know, I think of like, you know, look at the Stanley mugs. Everybody has to have a Stanley drink now. You know, my grandpa used to drink out of a Stanley and he wasn't a trendsetter. But I think that's the problem, Seth. I think youth have always struggled with the lie that I am not enough. And now they have social media to help confirm that lie.
Yeah, it's well said.
And that's dangerous.
It's well said. It's well said. You know, we could talk for another 20 minutes on that one, Tony. You know, maybe we'll save another part of that conversation for another day. Closing thoughts on that before we go to a break, though.
I think parents need to sit down and have honest communications about what they're giving their children. Understanding, again, it's a tool. Understanding that there may be some things that your children don't feel comfortable talking to their parent is. And one of the most powerful things you can do, find a good adult that you trust, that you could allow your child to have access to, that has your same values and visions and dreams. Because again, I can tell my kids a topic about something, but if their uncle says it, oh, it's the wisest thing that they've ever heard. And have those people in your social group that reflect your visions, your values, and your beliefs, and say, okay, if you don't feel comfortable with me, go talk to Uncle Seth, you know, because they will. And then the last thing is the Illinois Youth Survey. We keep talking about it on your show. Those tests are going to start in January. So by June, we're going to have some numbers of looking at what your students are self-reporting about anxiety, depression, suicide, social media access, and substance use.
Yeah. Well, we'll speak to one of those aspects on the other side of the break, Tony. Let's take it and come back with some more. Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, on the Zoom with us. More to come with Tony next.
WHOW.
It's a year's worth of work, but the accomplishments and awards you earn make it worth it. Congratulations to our local 4-Hers for their awards at this year's fairs. From the administration, doctors, nurses, support staff at Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. As much as half of the untreated nitrogen grower supply can go unutilized due to loss. Reducing that loss helps maximize nitrogen uptake, increasing crop productivity and yield potential. Easy to use, easy to handle Centuro nitrogen stabilizer from Koch Agronomic Services gets the job done. Patented active ingredient pronitridine offers effective protection where fields need it most, below ground, in the soil. Whether applied in fall or spring, Centuro provides unparalleled protection, ensuring crops can access nitrogen when they need it most. It utilizes both competitive and non-competitive inhibition with its mode of action inhibiting the AMO enzyme with no negative effect to the bacteria in your soil. So nitrogen stays in the ammonium form longer, minimizing loss and maximizing plant uptake. Protect your nitrogen investment this season with Centuro Nitrogen Stabilizer. Contact your local KAS representative or visit CenturoWorks.com to learn more.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, is my guest on the Zoom today. And Tony, you were telling me before we got started here today that you're meeting with some city officials there in Monticello about some of the over-the-counter things that just about anybody can get access to, and not exactly the safest thing for young people to have access to. What do you know? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so Seth, one of the things that the Piatt County Mental Health Center does is, in addition to prevention, treatment, and recovery support, is that we try to look at emerging issues that could be at risk for our general population. We don't try to get into policy too much because I like to stay in my own lane, but occasionally there are a few things that grab my attention that I think at least warrants a conversation. And so we have sent documentation out to both the city of Monticello and to the Piatt County Board about our concern about some of the material that's being sold at our local gas stations. And one of those that are currently being sold is a derivative, a quote, energy drink derivative called Kratom. And Kratom is being marketed as kind of an energy supplement. But what we're finding out is that if it is misused, which it commonly is, it has some very dire effects that, one, mirror the signs and symptoms of opioid use, but also will, if they use it in heavy dosage and discontinue, it has the same symptomology as an OUD withdrawal symptom that sometimes requires what we call medicated assisted treatment, or MAR, medications to help them wean themselves off from these really dangerous and deadly side effects. So,
wow.
Yeah, that we're having these conversations to have a look at it, because even some of the bottling that's being sold, while it says on the bottle that an average dose is half a bottle, the directions for use says for maximum effect, use the full bottle.
Right.
So it's encouraging misuse of this quote unquote energy supplement. So again, just some concerns about some substances that are currently being sold. One of our local retailers says that they are doing about $1,000 a week.
Wow.
On this, and that they have people coming in daily buying 3-day supplies. So while I am a libertarian and I don't want to create rules for unnecessary sake, I do have a problem with substances that, if misused, create a lot of harm for our community.
Right,
so
right.
Having
Particularly
conversations
kids,
about that.
you know. I mean, I think of people that, you know, young people, where it's like, oh, well, this is, you know, I don't need a driver's license to buy this. You know, I can just, or I can be, you know, 16 or 18 or whatever the age is and buy this. So it's fine. You know, it's okay for me, you know. And is that the case, Tony? I mean, does it have the same impacts as, like, say, a regular cannabis, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that the concern for me is the withdrawal symptoms. And if you use it and you abuse it too much, they do say that, in some cases there's hallucinogenic effects. So what we're talking about now isn't just like a Red Bull or again, I keep dating myself. Like back in the day, we used to have Jolt Cola or Surge or something like that. We're not talking about high extremes of caffeine, which are shown to be dangerous. We're looking at potentially deadly side effects to misuse for kratom. So all I would say is that I'd encourage your listeners of, okay, well, here's another quote liberal that's trying to take away my rights, and look at the kratom, look at the data. Again, like I said earlier, data doesn't have feelings. Look at kratom. We're not the only community that's thinking about this. Kankakee has recently passed a kratom and synthetic marijuana ban. Jerseyville, Jacksonville, several counties in Illinois. There are several states in the United States, at least 5 or 6 of them, that have totally banned the sale of this. So we're not setting any precedent by any means. We are looking at the data, looking at what the country is doing, and at least asking the questions of our elected officials of, do you think this warrants additional activity? So, yeah, like I said, we don't normally get into policy, but it is something I feel is strong enough that we need to keep our community safe.
Sure. Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, our guest. Network News on the way.